Hello from quote.com. Today we are going to look at some myths about auto insurance. These may be things that you have thought were true, or maybe things that you've wondered, I wonder if that is true. I've heard it, but is it based in truth? We're going to be looking at popular myths about car insurance. Now, while we're on the subject of car insurance, head over to quote.com. Enter your zip code in their free insurance comparison tool and get started comparing quotes today to see if you could save money on car insurance. I'm going to start off by jumping over to a quote.com article in which they share one of the most popular myths, and that is that red cars cost more to insure. They shared here a post by Doug Marinson, a State Farm agent, and he says, myth, red cars cost more to insure. Fact, car color doesn't affect your insurance rates. And then goes on to share some interesting reading material there. So let's now jump over to III.org, Insurance Information Institute, and explore the 8 most common auto insurance myths that you may have heard. And what do you see? The first one is that color determines the price of your auto insurance. It doesn't matter if your car is red. That seems to be the one that everyone thinks will pay more for insurance. It doesn't matter if your car is red, if it's white, if it's black. It doesn't matter. The color will not affect your insurance rates. Now, the only time that a car's color could affect insurance rates is if it is a custom paint job. So maybe it's one of those colors that's iridescent and it kind of changes color depending on the light and the shadows, or maybe it's a custom wrap job. And if you want those special things insured, you're going to pay more because the paint costs more and the paint job costs more. But just looking at just the plain old color of your car doesn't matter. So if you have, let's say you have a red car and you're paying high insurance rates and you thought, well, I'm just paying high rates because of my red car. Don't accept that. Head over to quote.com, compare auto insurance rates today and see if maybe you're just plain overpaying, not because you have a red car, but just because you're paying more than you need to. You can save a lot of money when you compare quotes. Myth number 2, it costs more to insure your car when you get older. Quite the opposite is true. Now, teen drivers pay the highest rates. Everybody knows that. And then as you get older, you pay less. Now, once you get to be 55, sometimes people think, well, now I'm going to start paying higher rates, but that is not necessarily true. For example, those over 55 years of age can get a reduction in their auto insurance premium if they successfully complete an accident prevention course. So you might actually finally be able to qualify for a discount for taking a safe driving course, and you may actually pay lower rates when you get older, above 55. Also, if you're retired and not driving as much like you would if you were commuting to a full-time job, you could get a low miles discount, which could also help you save. So older driver programs, they vary depending on where you live, but look into what's available in your state and what discounts your insurance provider will let you qualify for. Number 3, your credit has no effect on your insurance rate. Well, surprise, surprise, your credit does affect your insurance rate unless you live in one of the few states where credit is not allowed to be a factor when determining your premiums. In most places, your credit is going to make a big difference in the cost of your premiums. A good credit score demonstrates how well you manage your financial affairs and has been shown to be a good predictor of whether someone is likely to file an insurance claim. So insurance companies use that information. Insurance companies can't just arbitrarily use information about you. They have to be able to prove that there's a connection between that information and driving risk. And they have shown that there is a connection between your credit score and your likelihood to file a claim. So like it or not, most companies in most states are going to use your credit score as a factor when determining your premiums. Now, remember, not every company uses the same calculations. So perhaps you have a poor credit score and you're paying high insurance premiums. Well, maybe another company will not penalize you as much for that low credit score. The only way to know is to compare rates. So go to quote.com, enter your zip code, and get on your way to comparing rates and to see if there's a company that doesn't charge quite so high of premiums, even if you have a low credit score. Myth number 4, your insurance will cover you if your car is stolen, vandalized, or damaged by falling tree limbs, hail, flood, or fire. Well, this myth may not be a complete myth, but not all insurance policies will cover those types of events. If you simply have a liability only policy, that is only going to protect you from damage that you do with your car to another person's property or injuries that another party sustains as a result of an accident that you are at fault for. It will not cover your car at all. If you want your car covered for these types of incidences, you need comprehensive coverage. A lot of people combine comprehensive and collision coverage, and then that's called full coverage. So if you have full coverage, you are covered for these things in most cases. Myth number 5, you only need the minimum amount of auto liability insurance required by law. Let me tell you why this is a myth. What's true about that is if you have the minimum amount of coverage, you will not be ticketed for being uninsured. But you are not adequately protected because each state develops their own laws and has their own limits of how much minimum coverage you have to have. But universally, across all 50 states, that minimum required amount is too low to offer adequate, real-life, realistic coverage. You need to have coverage that protects you from real-world situations. So, for example, if you live in a state and your property damage liability minimum requirement is $10,000, and that's all you have, and you cause a crash with a brand new full-size SUV straight off the lot that costs $80,000, that car is totaled, your coverage is going to pay $10,000 and you are responsible for the additional $70,000. That's why minimum requirements are not adequate for real life situations. A better standard would be $100,000, $300,000 for bodily injury liability. So that's $100,000 for one party, $300,000 for multiple persons in the other vehicle that were injured, and $100,000 for property damage liability. And a lot of insurance companies, you may be surprised to hear this, a lot of insurance companies, that is what they offer as liability-only coverage. They don't even offer the state minimums because they're so out of touch with reality. Remember that if you're increasing the amount of insurance that you're carrying, you may pay higher rates. That's a good time to compare rates and see if you could be actually saving money or paying not even that much more by adding coverage or raising your limits. Go to quote.com, enter your zip code, answer a few questions, and you'll get several car insurance quotes from several companies that you can compare to see which one is best for you. Myth number 6. If another person drives your car in the event of an accident, his or her auto insurance will cover the damages. This question: does insurance follow the driver or the car? Well, in most states, the auto insurance policy covering the vehicle is considered primary. Now, if there's additional damages that exceed that limit, your policy could come into play, but it is the vehicle's policy that is primary. Myth number 7, soldiers pay more for insurance than civilians. If you're in the military, regardless of branch, you will almost always qualify for a discount. So usually you'll end up paying less than if you were not a soldier. You'll need to prove that you're in the military, but most insurance companies will then offer a discount. And in fact, one insurance company, USAA, they only write policies for military members and veterans and their families, and their rates tend to be among the lowest of all the competition. So you can actually pay less if you are in the military. And myth number 8, personal auto insurance also covers business use of your car. So if you run your own business and you use your car for business, you may think, I have insurance, I am good to go. Well, you know what? Your insurance policy that you have as an individual is meant to cover you as an individual and not as a business. Businesses carry higher risks. And that's why if you're using your car for business, you need a commercial policy, because your insurance company is not covering you for the additional risk of running a business in your car. So if you are in an accident and file a claim and your insurance company finds out that you were using your car for business, they will likely deny your claim, and that puts you in a really bad financial position. And in fact, the party that was injured or sustained damages in the crash could come back and sue your business. And if you don't have the right insurance, your business may not be able to survive such a lawsuit. So don't mess around and try and save money by using personal insurance for business needs when it comes to driving your car. Go to quote.com. You can even compare commercial car insurance quotes and see if you could minimize the amount you pay but still get the coverage you need. We don't want you to pay too much. We want you to pay what's fair, what's the lowest price possible for the coverage that is what you need. And quote.com has the tool to help you do that. So check it out today. At quote.com, we have a lot of great content that we're putting out on YouTube. So follow our channel, like this video, share it with others, because it's just interesting to learn what myths are common in the car insurance world. And if you learned something, leave us a comment and let us know what surprised you. And we will see you next time.